Welcome to Trade Talk, the podcast where construction pros connect, share, and grow. Brought to you by Contractors Connect, this show dives into real-world issues facing today's builders on and off the job site.
Whether you're swinging a hammer, running a crew, or scaling a business, we've got the insights, stories, and expert tips to help you level up in the building industry.
I'm Sarah White.
And I'm Erin Bacher. And together, we'll be talking shop with industry leaders, tradespeople, and innovators who are shaping the future of construction.
Let's get to work. This is Trade Talk. Welcome back to Trade Talk. I'm your host, Sarah. Today, I'm sitting down with Tina Blackwell, who is the owner of Blackwell Insurance. Her business is a family business that she's taken over, and she's been very involved in the startup of Destin, the construction of some of the first buildings and condos in our area. So I'm really excited to sit down with her and hear what it's like to work on a multi-generational business, what the early days of Destin were like, and all those fun things. So let's dive in. If you're in the construction industry and your marketing feels more like a punch list than a plan, it might be time to call in the pros. At Bespoke Consulting, we help contractors and construction businesses get noticed with branding that builds trust, websites that convert, and marketing strategies that actually move the needle. Want to grow your business without wasting time or money? Start with Bespoke. Learn more at bespokeconsulting.com. Tina, thank you so much for joining us today. I've did a little bit of reading up on your website and saw a lot of the history that you guys have in our area. So kind of tell us what your company is and how it got started.
So thank you for having me today. And I am Tina Blackwell, Blackwell Insurance. And our company was founded by my father in 1972. He moved here in the 8th grade. His father started the literary department at Gulf Coast when it was founded.
Neat.
And so he moved here in the 8th grade. And when he was in high school, he was a deckhand on a fishing boat. And he met a gentleman that had an insurance agency. And it was raining, and he spent all day listening to this gentleman's stories about how much he loved his job and how much he was part of his community, and he really helped people. And my dad decided at that time that he would, too, one day have an insurance agency.
Really?
So he went.
That's not something most little kids dream of being.
Yes. And what's fun about it is, we have the same story because my dad started the agency in 1972, and when I was in 8th grade, I promised him I would go to Florida, major in marketing, and move to Atlanta and have insurance, insurance career there before I moved back to Panama City. So it was, quite an adventure. I had my first job with Travelers, property casualty, and construction underwriting, and I took that job because I wanted to learn what made a risk profitable or desirable to a carrier, so that when I was an agent, I was able to present the insureds in the most glittering light for the most favorable pricing, terms and conditions. So I was in underwriting at Travelers, and after that experience, I took a job at Marsh McLennan, which is the largest brokerage firm in the world. And I specialized in tract home builders, so $4 billion and up companies. And I handled their general liability, their auto liability, their work comp, their excess. I did all the casualty lines. I negotiated their excess programs in London with the syndicates at the table, with the CEOs and the CFOs of the company, because so much of what we do is trust, and it's all relationships.
Absolutely.
So after that time, I moved back to Panama City in 2006 and took over the agency. And it was really neat to see the construction legacy that my father had built, because he had started in the 70s in construction, and really along the Emerald Coast in the 80s when we had the big condominium boom, he would write it as a project, builder's risk, under construction. And we still insure some of those condominium associations to this day.
Neat.
So we are into long-term, partnerships with our clients.
That's wonderful. So tell us a little bit more about some of those, being a part of those early construction projects and seeing this area really grow.
Well, it's really been a wild ride. When I moved back to Panama City in '06, it was very sleepy as far as the economy is concerned.
Right.
And really, I had a lot to learn as far as Florida is such a unique bird in insurance. It's different than any other state really in the country. And so learning, which markets were the go-to for which risks was exciting. I got the opportunity to sit on an insurance company's Florida board, their regional board, and their national board. And it really, brought to light how different we are and how weather and other things really play into, our risks and our exposures. I have had the pleasure and the honor to sit on the Florida Association of Independent Agents Board of Directors for the last 3 years. It's a 3-year term, and it has been a wonderful opportunity to collaborate with carriers and clients and friends, and really to represent the Emerald Coast in that arena, has been a big honor and a huge pleasure.
So what makes Florida different? I know we kind of touched on it. I think we all know hurricanes for sure, but also probably the humidity and all of those kind of things, just bugs.
Yes. Well, one of the turning points that we had as an agency was, Hurricane Michael. We had thousands of claims, and really it hammered home, what we were doing for our clients. At that time, the cost per square foot was pretty low on a lot of those buildings. And we had been working doing replacement cost estimators for clients to make sure that they understood what they were buying. Because that is the most important thing is, number one, make sure you have enough coverage if you have to replace a structure. But then number two, making sure that you've bought all the coverages that apply for that structure. So, this is really a great time for anyone and everyone to look at their insurance, especially if they're buying property insurance, and make sure they know what they have, because you don't want to wonder after the fact. We stayed open 24 hours a day for 45 days. And, the conversations that we had with our clients, were wonderful, because that's why we're in business, and really to watch that play out in our community, and even the improvements that I've seen, in downtown Panama City, in downtown Port St. Joe, in Mexico Beach. I mean, there were billions and billions of dollars that were funneled into this community,
and
to
it really
rebuild.
kind of needed it because there were so many aging structures and places that had kind of fallen into disrepair.
Yes, and it was kind of interesting because, our area had modeled very well prior to Michael, and it really took about 2 or 3 years before the property insurance rates started increasing, because we were not modeling as well, because the carriers then identified that we had a lot of older frame construction that did not withstand the hurricane. There was actually kind of a funny story. There was a building that was in litigation for construction defect, and after the storm in this particular area, it was the only one still standing.
Wow.
And that stopped the litigation in its tracks.
Yeah.
So,
So that was a good thing for them.
Yes.
Nobody else, but for them it was.
The improvements to the building code are working.
Yeah.
Want to grow your network and your business? Join Contractors Connect, the go-to networking group for professionals in the building industry. For just $400 a year, members get 4 complimentary meetup tickets per year, a featured spot in our online directory, visibility at every Contractors Connect event, and more. Whether you're a contractor, vendor, or service pro, there's a place for you here. Join today at contractors-connect.com/memberships, and let's build something great together.
So let's talk a little bit about how you guys work with builders and why you're a great agency for them to partner with.
Well, we love our builders. We do a lot of GCs and a lot of subcontractors, painters, plumbers, roofers, HVAC companies. It's so important that people have a very educated insurance advocate because it starts from the beginning. I mean, when we write someone's insurance, we take a look at their loss runs and we make sure that they don't have any open claims. And if they do have open claims, how can we close them out? We make sure that we've looked at their auto list and run their MVRs and make sure they have good drivers. And we make sure that they understand that there are all sorts of things available on an automobile fleet. Loss control, you can have fleet monitoring, you can have loss control safety meetings. There are all sorts of things that you can do to really make a risk look good to the carriers, which, translates into big dollar savings for the client. And so our job is to sit down with the risk, take a look at their operations, and put them in the best light. Also, we spend a lot of time educating our clients about the coverages that are available for them that they should be purchasing. And really, if we start with general liability, all general liability policies are not created equal. There are many policies that have gaps in coverage and things that are excluded that maybe the exclusions can be removed if that contractor has that exposure, but people are not analyzing the risks like they should.
Well, and I think when you see paperwork like that, it's just kind of overwhelming and you think, oh, this is just standard. This is what everybody does and, whatever. But I'm sure that you guys having this long history, you've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot of things and seen things that go wrong and things that go right, and you have that knowledge to provide to your clients about what the risks are.
Absolutely. I actually called one of our large long-term clients this morning to get some advice from him as to what I could help, in this podcast. And he said, working with you all, you make it simple. And I know that it will be handled. And, even this company, has had a claim and it was completely not their fault. But, when they needed it, he called up and said, I'm really grateful that we have it, and I have no concerns because I know it will just be taken care of.
Right.
And something that we had kind of talked a lot about before the podcast is contractual risk transfer. And that seems scary for a lot of GCs and also scary for a lot of subs. But it really...
Can you explain what that means?
Yes, ma'am. So contractual risk transfer is really about allocating the risk where it should be. So as a GC, they typically ask their subs to add the GC as additional insured, primary non-contributory, including products, and provide a waiver of subrogation.
Okay.
And that is standard, in most insurance contracts. The insurance contracts requires that the GC have that requirement and that their subs have at least $1 million, $2 million limit. And, this has come back, from a lot of our GCs as they'll say, I'm getting a lot of pushback from the subs about increasing their limit from below $1 million, $2 million, a lower limit. And I tell them, if the sub is buying a limit lower than $1 million, $2 million, they don't have a good advocate because the price differential is nothing and the coverage difference is everything. Yeah. So, On a smaller policy, it might be 5 to 7% to double the limit. It's no money, and it really does matter at the time of a claim. We had a claim scenario with one of our GCs, and he was building a very large commercial structure. And the commercial structure was insured, by a builder's risk policy with a great builder's risk carrier. And during the construction, one of the employees of the roofing company was smoking on the top of the building. And he threw out his cigarette, and it caught material, and the whole building burnt down.
Wow.
It was, the claim was over $1 million.
The whole building.
The whole building.
Oh my gosh.
And it was almost complete.
Oh, wow.
It was a renovation that it was almost complete, and so they had to start over.
Wow.
So in that circumstance, the property insurance responded first, because that's the quickest way to get these projects up and running is to hit the primary first policy, which would be property. So they paid and did their investigation, and the construction continued on. So
Let's start it over.
yes. Began again.
Right.
So
Hopefully without that roofer.
right. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
Cannot confirm or deny. But so what happened then is once that builder's risk carrier paid that claim, they went to subrogate their money back. And so they said, who caused the fire? So they found out that it was the roofing employee. So they went to the roofer and they said, hey, it was your employee. Well, the employee said, but the GC's materials were what was sitting on top of the building, and that's what I threw my cigarette on, and that's what caught fire. So at that point, not only was the roofer involved in the claim, but so was the GC. But the GC had been added as additional insured, primary non-contributory, including products, and they had signed a waiver of subrogation. They had had the roofer add all these things to his policy. And so at that point, the GC was out of it.
That's good.
Because the GC...
Which he should have been anyway, because there wouldn't be a fire without the cigarette.
Correct. But, I mean, that's the one thing that is very unpredictable. When it comes to liability claims, anything can happen.
Sounds like it.
I mean, I had a claim one time. A GC was building a second story of a home. And there ended up being mold, once the construction was complete. And they brought in an engineering firm, and the engineering firm determined that it was the framer and the HVAC company. And so at that point, they were both pulled in, and the HVAC company did not have professional liability, and their general liability carrier denied the claim because they said it was a professional exposure. And so that's another reason why having an agent that goes over all the coverages that you should buy is very important. And even if you choose not to purchase the coverage, you know what you've self-insured for and what you may be liable for in the future.
Right. That sounds like it's a huge part of the business that maybe people don't spend enough time on.
Well, what we do for our clients is we create clear, concise proposals of all the coverages that they have. And we include quotes on all the coverages that are available. Really from a GC or sub perspective, they are all probably buying general liability, auto liability, work comp, excess liability or umbrella, professional pollution, cyber liability, employment practices liability, and builder's risk for their construction projects. And then some subs and contractors buy a contractor's equipment policy, and that would be for anything that's not like an auto tagged for road use. So any heavy equipment that is used, in the construction operations.
Okay, so how has this all changed over the years? Do you think that it's getting easier, or there's just getting harder? There's more and more things that need to be included.
I think that the market for construction, has been stable. I mean, I don't see any big swings one way or another. The sticker shock, I feel like, all companies had in the last few years was auto liability. After COVID, the claims, the auto claims were 30% higher because they couldn't get the parts for the vehicles. Right. They didn't have the people to do the work. So that caused automobile rates to go up across the board. And we've started to see some relief from that. So that's good. The property market is looking a lot better.
Well, haven't a lot of insurance companies pulled out of Florida?
They did. And right now, there was some legislation that was passed a few years ago that actually FAIA, they lobbied for. And since that legislation has passed, it has really reduced the litigation, because the litigation
is what caused them to want to leave.
And now they're coming back. And so there have been several carriers that have started writing insurance in the state of Florida within the last 12 months. And the rates, more competition brings more competition price from a price perspective. So competition is everything. So really, I feel like the market is looking a lot better.
Okay, well, that's some good news. Let's talk a little bit about things that contractors need to know about insurance. So what is the biggest mistake you see contractors make?
I think the biggest mistake I've seen contractors make is kind of shutting down when it comes to contractual risk transfer.
Just the name alone makes you not want to deal with it.
Correct. So we try to make that simple for people and make them feel really comfortable and easy with it and hold their hand. I think another, mistake is, again, not all carriers and not all policies are created equal. Really, having a good casualty carrier that is in it for the long run really benefits the clients and the carriers over a long period of time, because in our subcontractor segment, where they have lots and lots of vehicles on the road, we will every 10 years have a big one. And the fact of the matter is, those long-term relationships and, the fact that we know that that's going to happen, having an advocate within your agency and also within the company makes a big difference from a price perspective, because really, things are going to happen, and that's why people buy the insurance. Also, I feel like something that we've really worked hard with our clients is to make sure that if they have anything that they think could potentially be a problem with a claim, that they call us immediately. Because if it's something we can report quickly, then if it's reported quickly, usually the claims payout is less and they close out faster. And if they don't report it, like we had a circumstance where someone was driving down 30A and there was a child that actually ran into their vehicle, like darted into the vehicle. And the driver of the vehicle didn't even realize anything had happened, but did eventually turn around. The child did go to the hospital, and we did not hear about it immediately. And then the next thing we know, we had lawsuits filed as a consequence. So really, and that was just a situation where they didn't even realize anything had happened. But, if I'm giving people good advice, anytime there is any bodily injury ever, you've got to call your carrier so they can call it in, and your carrier can jump on it for you because they're your advocate.
Mm-hmm.
And, the policy is there, a general liability policy and an auto liability policy. It's there to defend and indemnify. So make those parties whole.
Mm-hmm.
Something I see a lot is on automobile liability, sometimes people do not have uninsured motorist, and that's a huge mistake because the uninsured motorist protects them. In a claim in an automobile, workers' compensation does go first, but uninsured motorist is there for things outside of workers' compensation, to make that injured person whole again.
Right. There's just a lot of things to consider.
Right.
All around. What about proper documentation? What are some things that contractors may be doing wrong there?
I think that proper documentation really manifests itself in an audit. So, when you do a liability policy, depends on, whether it's a GC or a sub, but it's either going to be based upon sales or payroll.
Mm-hmm.
And some carriers, if it's excess and surplus lines, they don't give a return premium back. Direct carriers will give a return premium back. So I think that A, understanding what they're buying, B, having a clear handle on the exposure that they put on their application and their policy,
Mm-hmm.
and then C, understanding what the auditor is going to be asking for when they complete the audit makes a huge difference. If someone, is required by their policy for their subs to have additional insured, primary non-contributory, including products and a waiver of subrogation, and have that certificate on file, if they don't have that certificate on file, it could be a problem. And if they had an uninsured sub, it will be picked up on their exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And they will be charged for it. So I think that for a contractor or a subcontractor to understand what they've bought, what their exposure is, how it's rated, and how the audit is going to turn out matters. Also, if during the year someone's having a major, like a huge year, a banner year,
Mm-hmm.
they need to check in with their insurance advocate because, sometimes we can negotiate a more favorable audit before the term is over.
Right.
Because it was maybe unpredictable. So, there's so many things that can be done that benefit the GC or sub financially, a big bonus, but they have to be in touch with their insurance advocate so that they can make those changes.
Right. So that kind of made me think about what are some of the things that contractors do that can put them at risk of losing their coverage?
Not complying to contractual risk transfer obligations from your policy, hiring uninsured subs, not complying with your audit. When people don't comply with the audit, the carriers usually non-renew. Those are some things that can, put a contractor in a precarious position, and also, not buying a builder's risk. If you're doing a new construction or renovation, not having the right coverages in place. Sometimes we will have subcontractors and maybe the requirements of the contract are too significant. I mean, maybe they're requiring a $10 million umbrella when that's really not what that sub needs. And we engage there too. And we, work with the GC or the owner that's got this requirement, and we try to get that reduced for our insureds.
Yeah.
And I mean, all that matters because a lot of the subs will not get paid until they've fulfilled those obligations. Right. So, that's another skill set that we have that really adds value for our clients because we can get it solved quickly and effectively.
So let's tell everybody if they're wanting to do a check-in on their insurance or wanting to get a new quote, how can they reach you guys?
So you can call us at our office, which is 850-769-2225, or you can, hit us up with an email. My email is Tina Blackwell at blackwellinsurance.net. Typically, when we're looking at a new client, we ask that they gather up their insurance policies so we can review what they have and advise. And then also, carriers usually require 3 years of loss runs. And a lot of times when we're writing a client as a new piece of business, we have them get as many years as they can because if it's more favorable to look at 3 years, we do 3 years. If it's more favorable for 5 years, we do 5 years. If it's more favorable to do 10 years, we do 10 years. So it just depends, and we try to, again, put them in the best light possible.
Right. Well, this has been really informative, and I think there's a lot of our listeners who this definitely applies to and who probably need to give you a call. So we're excited that we got to sit down and talk with you. And if you want to learn more or see Tina, she's going to be at our Built to Lead Summit in September. And so you can stop by and meet her in person. But this has been great. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
All right, now it's time for Voices from the Booth, our favorite segment where we hear from our attendees at our meetups. And we've got a couple of clips from Okaloosa. And I'm excited to hear what they have to say.
Hey everybody, we are here in Okaloosa County at AJ's on the Bayou. I'm in the Trade Talk booth sponsored by Wholesale Wood. I've got some new friends that I haven't seen before. Tell me your names and what company you're with.
My name's Alexis. This is Lexi. We're with Morgan Container of Northwest Florida.
Okay.
This is our first time here. We came across an email in our email, and I just looked into it, and obviously everybody knows AJ's is a popular spot to hang out and stuff, and so I just sent it to my boss, and I was like, let's give it a shot.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about what you guys do, your company.
So Morgan Container, it's a roll-off dumpster service. We have 15, 20, and 30-yard dumpsters. Okay. We are located in Freeport, Florida, and we do a 65-mile radius around it. Niceville, Crestview, Panama City, all around. And then we just service dumpsters, great customer service. That's our top priority usually. Same day service, deliveries, pickups, whatever you need, and stuff like that. So.
I love it. Well, you're in the right spot. We've got several builders here tonight, and if you haven't met them, I'll introduce you. So thanks for joining us, but tell people how can they find you to find out more information.
So you can look up Morgan Dumpsters. It'll bring you right to our website. Okay. Or you can email us at rawservice@yahoo.com, and we'll answer straight away. We're always looking at our emails. And then we have Facebook and Instagram as well if you just look up Morgan Container.
I have met Austin tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
What brought you out, and tell me a little bit about your company.
So my company is Reefside Roofing Professionals. I came here tonight because my realtor invited me. We just closed on a building.
Nice.
We got to do a little bit of roofing work on it and stuff like that. But yeah, that's why I'm here.
Cool. And what areas do you guys service? Are you just in Okaloosa or?
Anywhere from Perdido Key to Panama City, Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, Okaloosa, all the way out to Bay. So.
And tell the people where they can find you.
Sure. It's reefsideroof.com, or you can obviously just Google us. Reefside Roofing Professionals or Reefside Roof, we should pop up. 850-803-6425.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The Trade Talk booth in Okaloosa County is proudly sponsored by Wholesale Wood Products. For contractors, builders, and trade professionals across the Emerald Coast, Wholesale Wood is a trusted source for quality lumber, engineered wood products, and the materials you need to keep projects moving. Their knowledgeable team understands the construction industry and is committed to dependable service, competitive pricing, and getting you what you need when you need it. Learn more at wholesalewoodonline.com. Wholesale Wood Products, the partner from foundation to finish. We'll see you next time on Trade Talk. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning into Trade Talk, powered by Contractors Connect, where construction pros connect, share, and grow.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew.
Until next time,
Stay sharp,
stay safe,
and keep building.